Hello, good afternoon. Gradually, we're moving all the time more and more toward what would be Advent, what is Advent, the beginning of what in the church calendar, the beginning of the new year, which is Advent. But this part is the end of the liturgical year. And toward the end now, the 30th Sunday, we're looking forward to All Saints and All Souls. We look forward to the Lord's, and finally then toward the end of November, Jesus Christ the King coming to judge the world, the end times. But we still walk along that way with this Sunday's first reading in Jeremiah, chapter 31, verse 7 to 9. The Lord has delivered his people, the remnant of Israel. They departed in tears, but I will console them, he says, and guide them. I am a father to Israel, he says. As a psalm response for this Psalm 126 this Sunday says, the Lord has done great things for us. We are filled with joy. For their disobedience, Israel had been led off to captivity by the Babylonians. They had served their time in reparation. The God of Israel loves his people, and with paternal care leads them back to their homeland. In the third reading, Mark chapter 10, verses 46 to 52, Bartimaeus hears that Jesus of Nazareth is passing by, but probably because he has heard that Jesus has done marvelous things that only the Messiah could do, he calls out to him, addressing him with the messianic title, Son of David, instead of Jesus of Nazareth, which is his secular name. Bartimaeus, in crying out, Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me, is saying what we say at the beginning of the Mass. Jesus have mercy, Christ have mercy. It was his way, and now our way, of requesting, make me physically whole, make me spiritually holy, do great things for me. As Jesus, Father, led Israel out of the dark times of slavery, Jesus leads a son of Israel out of the darkness of his blindness. When the disciples said to Bartimaeus, take courage, get up, Jesus is calling you, he threw aside his cloak, sprang up, and came to Jesus. Traditionally, Bartimaeus' response to the invitation of Jesus is looked upon as his way of saying by his actions that he has abandoned seeking his strength from his own personal resources, such as the cloak, but is now totally dependent on, that is to say, put his faith in Jesus. Jesus told him, go your way, your faith has saved you. Immediately he received his sight and followed him on the way. As with the remnant of Israel and Jeremiah, the Lord has done great things for Bartimaeus, and he follows the Lord with great joy. In the darkness of his blindness, his faith opened him to be filled with the power of God. Our weaknesses invite us to no longer be dependent on our own resources, but rather to put our faith in the strength of the Lord. Life is a journey of having the sight to see Jesus leading us on the way to heaven, and not to be lost in the blindness of an earthly life. In the second reading, Hebrews chapter 5, verses 1 to 6. Every high priest in the Old Testament was just a human being, but chosen by God. Being human, even the high priest is beset by weakness, and so for this reason must make sin offerings for himself as well as for the people. No one takes this honor upon himself, but only when called by God. Jesus too was called by God his Father to be the high priest. It was the Father who glorified Jesus, saying to him, You are my son. This day I have begotten you. God sets up the scenario for Jesus to be the high priest who opens up the gates of heaven by offering up himself on the cross so that we may be delivered from captivity to sin to live in the promised land of heaven. Now we also can say, the Lord has done great things for us. We are filled with joy. God bless you all.